You ever notice how the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest one? They talk, they shout, they argue, but deep down, they're just trying to convince themselves they matter. Now think about the opposite. The person who sits quietly, observes, doesn't rush to prove anything. People lean in. They wonder. They feel something different. That silence carries more power than 1,000 empty words. The truth is, when you stop chasing approval, when you stop wasting your energy explaining yourself to people who don't even matter, everything in your life begins to shift. You don't need to announce your every move. You don't need to broadcast your struggles. You don't need to fight to be understood. Because when you learn to focus on yourself and stay silent, the world has no choice but to notice. I'm telling you right now, most people lose because they can't stay quiet. They sabotage themselves by over-talking, by over-explaining, by trying to prove their worth. But silence? Silence is where strength is built. Focus is where transformation happens. And when you combine those two, your entire life begins to align in ways you never imagined. You want to know why? Because energy flows where attention goes. If your attention is on other people, on noise, on nonsense, then your energy is scattered, drained, wasted. But when all of it comes back to you, your growth, your discipline, your vision, suddenly life starts falling into place. Doors open. Opportunities come. People treat you differently. And the best part? You didn't have to say a word. Now let me show you exactly how this works and why focusing on yourself in silence is the most powerful move you will ever make. Most people misunderstand silence. They think being silent means you have nothing to say, no opinion, no strength. They mistake it for weakness, for submission, for being invisible. But silence, when used with intention, is one of the greatest powers you can ever master. The person who can sit in silence without feeling the need to fill the air with meaningless words is the person who has control over themselves. And control over themselves is the rarest and most valuable strength in this world. Think about it. The average person can't handle silence. Put them in a room with a little tension, and they rush to speak. They try to prove themselves, explain themselves, justify themselves, even when no one asked. Why? Because silence makes them uncomfortable. They are afraid of what others might think if they don't respond. They are afraid of being misunderstood. They are afraid of being underestimated. But here's the truth. Every time you open your mouth out of fear, you give your power away. Every time you feel the need to explain or defend yourself, you're telling the world that you are not in control of your own state. Silence, on the other hand, is the ultimate proof that you are unshakable. When you hold your silence, people lean in. They start to wonder. They begin to question what you know, what you're thinking, why you're not reacting like everyone else. You create an air of mystery, and mystery is power. Think of the strongest leaders, the most influential people you've seen. Did they waste time arguing with every critic? Did they respond to every insult, every rumor, every doubt thrown at them? No, they stayed silent and let their actions, their results, and their presence speak. That's what separates strength from weakness. Weakness reacts. Strength observes. Weakness fights to be understood. Strength doesn't care if it's misunderstood. Weakness spills everything. Strength holds back. Now, silence isn't just about what you don't say to others. It's also about what you don't say to yourself. Your mind is constantly firing off thoughts, doubts, fears. Most people can't quiet their own inner voice. They let it run wild, and that noise controls them. True silence is being able to sit with yourself, to shut down the mental chatter, to hold still in the middle of chaos without collapsing. That's strength. Because once you master silence inside, nothing outside can shake you. Imagine someone insults you, spreads lies about you, tries to push your buttons. The weak person reacts instantly. They get angry, emotional, defensive. They shout, they argue, they fight to prove they're right. And in doing so, they lose control. But the strong person, they don't flinch. They don't waste energy on people who don't matter. Their silence says more than words ever could. And here's the beautiful part. Silence makes people reveal themselves. When you stay quiet, you give others room to keep talking, to keep showing you who they are. You learn more by listening than by speaking. You gain information, insight, and leverage simply by not rushing to fill the silence. This is why silence builds strength. It trains patience. It teaches discipline. It forces you to pause, to think, to observe before you act. And in a world where everyone is racing to be heard, the one who can wait, who can withhold, who can strike only when necessary, will always have the advantage. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's restraint. It's wisdom. And it's rare. When you master silence, you also master presence. Have you ever been around someone who barely says a word, yet their presence dominates the room? They don't have to shout. They don't have to brag. They don't have to convince anyone of anything. That kind of power doesn't come from words. It comes from energy, from self-control, from being grounded in who you are. That kind of presence only comes when you know your worth and no longer feel the need to prove it. Let's be honest, most people talk too much. They reveal too much. They explain too much. And by doing so, they give away their leverage. The one who stays silent keeps their power. Silence forces others to fill in the gaps with their imagination. And imagination is often more powerful than reality. People will overthink your silence. They will project strength onto you because you didn't show weakness. They will assume you know more than you do, that you're more confident than you are, simply because you didn't break. That's the gift of silence. It multiplies your presence without you having to say anything at all. But don't confuse silence with inaction. Being silent doesn't mean doing nothing. It means letting your actions, not your words, do the speaking. It means building quietly, working quietly, growing quietly. It means staying focused while everyone else is distracted by noise. And then one day you step out and your results are so undeniable that no words are needed. That is true strength. Not the kind that announces itself every 5 minutes, but the kind that reveals itself when it's time, and not a moment sooner. So understand this. If you want to be strong, if you want to be unshakable, if you want to command respect without begging for it, learn to master silence. Train yourself not to react, not to overshare, not to explain. Protect your words, protect your energy, protect your focus. Let people wonder, let them question, let them doubt. Because in the end, your silence will speak louder than anything you could ever say. And when you master it, you'll realize silence was never weakness. It was strength all along. When you finally learn to focus on yourself, you stop scattering your energy across things that don't matter. Most people spend their lives watching everyone else, what they're doing, what they're buying, where they're going, who they're with. They scroll endlessly, comparing themselves to strangers, wasting hours consumed by lives that aren't theirs. And in doing so, they lose sight of the most important project they will ever work on, themselves. The moment you shift that attention back to you, everything starts to change. You begin to see how much time you've wasted trying to measure up to other people's timelines, other people's standards, other people's expectations. But when the only competition is yourself, life starts to align in ways you didn't think were possible. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. You cannot give to the world. You cannot build a future. You cannot grow into your potential if you're pouring all your energy into everyone else's business. It's like trying to run a marathon while constantly turning your head to watch the runners beside you. You'll trip, you'll fall, you'll lose your rhythm. But when you look straight ahead, when you put your eyes on your own path, you find alignment comes when you stop scattering yourself across 1,000 distractions and start channeling your energy into one direction, your growth, your purpose, your vision. Here's the truth. Energy is currency. You spend it every single day. Every conversation, every thought, every action is a transaction. And if you're spending that energy on gossip, on jealousy, on comparison, then you're broke before you even start. That's why so many people feel drained, unmotivated, and lost. They've been giving their energy away to things that don't add any value to their life. But the moment you redirect that energy back into yourself, you start compounding results. You start eating better, moving better, thinking better. You start investing in your skills, your knowledge, your character, and little by little the pieces of your life begin to fall into place. When you focus on yourself, you begin to see clearly. Distractions lose their shine. You stop caring about the noise around you because you realize it doesn't serve you. You stop needing to prove yourself because you know that proving yourself wastes the energy you should be using to improve yourself. And when you consistently improve, alignment happens naturally. The right people show up. The right opportunities cross your path. The wrong people fall away because they no longer fit with the version of you that you're becoming. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your external world starts to reflect the internal work you've been doing. Most people chase alignment in the wrong way. They think alignment means forcing life to work out, begging people to stay, fighting for opportunities, or bending themselves just to fit into spaces that aren't meant for them. But alignment doesn't come from force. It comes from focus. It comes from you being so locked in on your own growth that the things not meant for you fall away, and the things meant for you find their way to you. When you are aligned within, the world around you reorganizes to match your frequency. Think about it like tuning a radio. If you're not focused, you're bouncing between stations, catching fragments of sound, but never clarity. But when you lock into the right frequency, the noise disappears and the music comes through perfectly. That's what happens when you focus on yourself. The noise of comparison, the noise of other people's judgments, the noise of fear and doubt, it fades away. What's left is your frequency, your rhythm, your path. That's when life starts to make sense. Another thing happens when you focus inward. You take responsibility. You stop blaming the world for what you don't have. You stop pointing fingers. You stop saying, if only this person helped me, if only this happened, if only life were easier. You begin to understand that alignment isn't about waiting for the world to change. It's about changing yourself so that the world responds differently to you. Responsibility is power. The moment you stop blaming and start building, the universe starts moving with you instead of against you. Focusing on yourself also creates clarity about what you actually want. When you're always watching others, you're constantly tempted to chase what they have, even if it doesn't align with your soul. You might want their house, their career, their relationship, simply because you see it. But when you look inward, you ask yourself, what do I really want? What fulfills me? What path feels right for me? And the answers you find are usually very different from what you've been chasing. That's why so many people achieve success and still feel empty. They never focused on themselves long enough to discover their own definition of success. When you live out of alignment, life feels heavy. Things don't click. You feel like you're pushing against a wall, forcing progress, struggling at every turn. But when you align by focusing on yourself, life feels lighter. You're not rushing. You're not competing. You're simply moving in flow. And opportunities seem to meet you at the right place at the right time. It's not that life suddenly gets easier. It's that you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You walk your path. And that path leads you exactly where you're meant to be. So if you're tired of chaos, if you're tired of feeling stuck, the answer isn't to talk louder or to force the world to bend to you. The answer is to pull back, silence the noise, and focus on yourself. Pour into your health. Pour into your discipline. Pour into your goal. Build yourself piece by piece, and watch how the outside world falls into order. The world doesn't change when you chase it. The world changes when you change, when you align. And alignment always begins with focus. Focus on yourself. Distractions are everywhere, and they are the silent thieves of power. Every single day, you're bombarded with notifications, opinions, gossip, and noise that demand your attention. The world is designed to pull you in 1,000 directions at once, to keep you reactive instead of proactive, to keep you addicted to other people's lives instead of building your own. Most people don't even realize how much of their strength they hand away, bit by bit, to meaningless distractions. The truth is, you cannot step into your full power until you learn to detach from the noise. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you isolate yourself completely. It means you refuse to let distractions control you. It means you take your power back by choosing where your attention goes. Power is energy, and energy flows wherever your attention is placed. When you let every distraction pull you in, you're giving away pieces of yourself. You're drained before you even start. That's why so many people feel exhausted at the end of the day. Not because they worked hard on their goals, but because they worked hard for everyone else's. They gave their energy to pointless arguments online, to gossip at work, to worrying about who likes them and who doesn't, to scrolling endlessly through lives that aren't even theirs. That energy could have been spent building, creating, improving, moving forward. Instead, it was wasted. Detachment is the discipline of protecting that energy at all costs. When you detach from distractions, you become unshakable. You stop reacting to every little thing people say or do. Someone insults you, you don't respond. Someone doubts you, you don't flinch. Someone tries to drag you into their drama, you don't step in. Why? Because you know the truth. Every reaction is energy, and energy is power. The one who can't control their reactions is weak. The one who chooses their reactions is strong. Detachment gives you that strength. It gives you the ability to see the chaos without becoming part of it. Most people are addicted to distraction because it feels easier than facing themselves. They'd rather argue, rather binge on entertainment, rather scroll for hours, rather gossip, rather complain, because it keeps them from dealing with the silence. But silence is where growth happens. Distraction keeps you numb. Detachment wakes you up. When you detach, you stop seeking validation in all the wrong places. You stop chasing approval from people who don't matter. You stop wasting hours on things that give you nothing back. Instead, you learn to sit with yourself, to confront your weaknesses, to invest in your strength. That's when transformation begins. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you care deeply about the things that truly matter, and you refuse to let the small things pull you away from them. It's like a warrior preparing for battle. They don't get distracted by every noise in the distance. They stay focused on the mission because their survival depends on it. Your life is no different. If you get caught up in distractions, you lose sight of the mission. You lose sight of what you're building, who you're becoming, and where you're going. Detachment keeps your eyes on the target, no matter what chaos swirls around you. Here's the secret. Distractions will never disappear. They will always be there, tempting you, calling for your attention. But your power lies in the choice not to answer. Your phone will buzz, but you don't have to pick it up. People will try to pull you into drama, but you don't have to respond. Opportunities will show up that don't align with your vision, but you don't have to chase them. Detachment is the ability to say no to others, to noise, to anything that takes you off your path. And every time you say no to a distraction, you say yes to your power. Think of the most disciplined people in the world, the ones who achieve extraordinary things. They aren't superhuman. They aren't immune to distractions. They just know how to detach. While everyone else is glued to screens, they're studying. While others are gossiping, they're building. While others are reacting emotionally, they're staying composed. Their strength comes from their ability to say, that doesn't serve me, so I won't give it my energy. That choice, repeated over and over again, compounds into power that others can't touch. Detachment also gives you peace. Distractions create constant noise, constant stress, constant restlessness. You're always on edge, always reacting, always feeling pulled apart. But when you detach, you gain clarity. Your mind feels lighter. Your energy feels sharper. You stop drowning in chaos and start moving with purpose. And when you move with purpose, everything else begins to align. Opportunities that actually matter show up. Relationships that drain you fall away. You attract people and experiences that match your focus, not your chaos. And here's what's even more powerful: when you stop giving attention to distractions, they lose their hold on you. The people who used to trigger you no longer have the power to do so. The temptations that once controlled you now feel small. The noise that once consumed you fades into the background. You realize the world hasn't changed. You have. And because you've changed, the world can no longer control you the way it used to. That's real power. Not the kind that shouts and demands, but the kind that sits steady while the storm rages on. So understand this. Your strength is not built in how much you can fight distractions, but in how well you can detach from them. The more you detach, the more energy you reclaim. The more energy you reclaim, the more power you have to create, to build, to grow. And once you taste that kind of power, the distractions that once seemed so tempting will feel like nothing at all. You'll see them for what they are. Tests designed to see if you're ready for more. Pass the test, detach, protect your focus, guard your energy. Because when you do, you unlock a version of yourself that is unstoppable. The most powerful transformations you will ever go through won't be visible to anyone else. They won't be broadcast on social media, they won't be applauded by a crowd, and they won't come with instant validation. Real growth happens in private. It happens in the quiet hours, when no one is watching. It happens in the decisions you make daily, the discipline you keep, and the sacrifices you choose to embrace. The world doesn't see the sweat, the struggle, the lonely nights, or the battles with doubt. All they will see later are the results. And when those results show up, they speak louder than any words ever could. Most people want recognition before they've earned it. They want applause before they've done the work. They want to be celebrated for plans, not results. That's why they share every move they make, every goal they set, every small step, because they're addicted to the validation of being noticed. But here's the truth. Growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows. It happens when you choose to grind while everyone else is distracted. It happens when you keep promises to yourself that no one else even knows about. That's where strength is built. Private growth is powerful because it removes pressure. When no one is watching, you're free to fail, free to stumble, free to learn without judgment. You're not performing for anyone else. You're working for yourself. You can start small, make mistakes, and improve quietly. And by the time you step into the public eye, you've already built a foundation that can't be shaken. That's why the most successful people seem to appear out of nowhere. They weren't an overnight success. They were working in silence for years. The world just didn't see it. Think about a seed planted in the ground. No one claps when it's buried. No one celebrates when it first sprouts. But under the soil, where no one can see, roots are forming. The foundation is being built. And when the time is right, that seed breaks through the surface and grows into something undeniable. Your growth works the same way. The roots, the discipline, the consistency, the self-mastery are invisible at first. But without them, nothing lasting can grow. By the time the world notices your results, your roots are so deep that no storm can rip you out. When you focus on private growth, you learn to stop chasing recognition. You stop caring about proving yourself to people who aren't even invested in your success. You stop seeking applause from people who wouldn't even clap for you if you won. Instead, you become addicted to progress itself. You take pride in the grind, in the small wins no one else knows about, in the quiet victories that only you can see. That pride builds a deeper kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be validated because you already know who you are. Public recognition without private growth is empty. You've seen people who gain attention too soon. They crumble. They don't have the foundation to handle the weight of success. So they collapse under pressure. That's what happens when you chase visibility without putting in the invisible work. But when you've been growing in private, when you've been putting in the unseen hours, when you've been building brick by brick with no one watching, you are ready when the spotlight comes. You don't just shine for a moment. You laugh because your results are backed by real strength, not empty words. The most powerful statement you can ever make is to let your results do the talking. Words can be doubted, promises can be broken, plans can be questioned, but results cannot be denied. Results silence critics. Results end arguments. Results make noise without you ever opening your mouth. And the only way to get results that undeniable is to grow in private until you're unrecognizable from the person you used to be. But private growth requires patience. It requires you to resist the urge for instant validation. It requires you to say no to distractions and yes to discipline. Over and over again, with no one congratulating you. It requires you to trust that the work you're doing now, though unseen, will pay off later in ways bigger than you can imagine. And that trust is hard, because the world conditions you to seek quick rewards. But anything quick fades quickly. True growth, the kind that lasts, is built slowly, quietly, consistently. You need to understand silence is your ally. When no one knows your moves, no one can interfere with them. When no one sees your grind, no one can judge it, mock it, or try to sabotage it. Privacy protects your process. It shields your focus. It gives you the space to grow freely, without noise pulling you off track. By the time the world catches up to what you've been doing, it's already too late for anyone to stop you. So, stop announcing your every step. Stop telling people what you're going to do. Stop seeking applause for effort. Do the work quietly. Build yourself in silence. Improve day by day, unseen and unnoticed. And when the time is right, when the roots are strong enough, when the foundation is unshakable, let your results speak for you. Because results need no introduction. They carry their own authority. They silence doubters without you ever having to lift your voice. In the end, private growth isn't just about results. It's about who you become in the process. You become disciplined. You become resilient. You become confident in a way no applause could ever give you. And when you finally step into the world with that kind of power, you won't need to prove anything to anyone. The proof will be in the results, and those results will speak louder than you ever could. Mastery doesn't begin with controlling the world around you. It begins with controlling yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to bend life to their will, trying to change others, trying to fix circumstances outside their control. They get frustrated, they get angry, they feel powerless because nothing seems to go their way. But here's the truth. The world doesn't align when you fight it. The world aligns when you align yourself. When you master your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your discipline, the outside world begins to reflect that order. Life is a mirror. It shows you what you are. If you are scattered inside, life feels chaotic. If you are steady inside, life feels balanced. Master yourself, and everything else falls into place. Self-mastery begins with awareness. You cannot control what you refuse to acknowledge. Most people run on autopilot, reacting to every emotion, chasing every impulse, giving in to every temptation. They think they're in control, but really they're being controlled by their habits, their triggers, their old patterns. Mastery means stepping back and observing yourself. Why do you react the way you do? Why do you get angry so quickly? Why do you give up so easily? Why do you keep falling into the same traps? When you start asking these questions, you begin to break free from autopilot. You start to see yourself clearly. And once you see yourself, you can begin to master yourself. The greatest power you will ever hold is the power to control your internal state. If you can stay calm when others panic, if you can stay focused when others are distracted, if you can stay disciplined when others quit, you become unstoppable. Think about it. How many people sabotage themselves? Not because life was against them, but because they lost control of themselves. They had opportunities, but they weren't disciplined enough to prepare. They had relationships, but they weren't patient enough to sustain them. They had dreams, but they weren't resilient enough to endure the struggle. It wasn't life that destroyed them. It was their lack of mastery. When you master yourself, you stop being your own enemy. You stop creating unnecessary chaos. You stop letting emotions drag you into battles you don't need to fight. You stop wasting energy on things that don't serve you. Instead, you start channeling that energy into building, into growing, into becoming the kind of person who attracts what they want instead of chasing it. Because here's what's powerful. When you're aligned within, you don't have to force life to work. Things begin to flow toward you. The right people notice you. The right opportunities show up. The wrong ones fall away. It feels almost effortless. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you stopped working against yourself. Mastery also means discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken it, and the world responds to the strength of your foundation. If you're disciplined, if you're consistent, if you're relentless in your habits, life will reward you. If you're lazy, if you're undisciplined, if you're easily distracted, life will reflect that back to you as failure, chaos, and struggle. The results you see are not random. They are the mirror of your mastery. Another layer of self-mastery is emotional control. People will test you. Life will test you. You cannot control what they say, what they do, or what life throws your way. But you can control your response. And that choice makes all the difference. Do you lash out? Do you lose your cool? Do you let anger, fear, or doubt take over? Or do you stay centered, calm, and steady no matter what comes? The one who can remain composed in the storm is the one who commands power, because storms will always come. But if you are grounded, you will not be moved. When you master yourself, you also gain clarity. You stop being pulled in 100 directions because you know what matters to you. You know your vision, your values, your purpose. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on the few things that align with who you are. That clarity saves you time, energy, and years of wandering. Most people drift through life because they lack clarity, and they lack clarity because they lack mastery. But once you master yourself, the fog clears. You know where you're going, and you move with certainty. And here's the beauty of mastery. It attracts alignment. People can sense when someone is in control of themselves. They respect it. They're drawn to it. Opportunities open up for those who are disciplined and grounded. Relationships thrive with those who are emotionally stable and strong. Success flows to those who have trained themselves to endure the process without quitting. Alignment isn't luck. It's the natural consequence of mastery. Think of it this way. If your life is a ship, self-mastery is the captain. Without a captain, the ship drifts, tossed around by every wave, at the mercy of the wind. With a captain, the ship has direction. It may face storms, but it stays on course. Mastery is what keeps you steady when life tries to knock you off balance. Without it, you're lost. With it, you can face anything. So stop trying to control the world. Stop wasting energy demanding that life be easier. Stop blaming circumstances, people, and luck. The world is not the problem. The lack of mastery is. When you learn to master yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your discipline, you change the game. Life begins to align with you instead of against you. The chaos outside loses its grip because the chaos inside has been tamed. That's when everything falls into place. Not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you became powerful enough to create alignment from within. Master yourself and the rest will follow. Because the strongest force in the universe is a person who is fully in command of themselves. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about comes down to one truth. Your power doesn't come from noise. It doesn't come from proving yourself. It doesn't come from what others think of you. Your power comes from silence, from focus, from mastery. When you stop wasting your energy on distractions, when you stop chasing validation, when you stop fighting battles that don't belong to you, something incredible happens. Life begins to align. Opportunities come. People respect you. The chaos quiets down, and it's not because the world changed, it's because you did. The strength you're searching for isn't out there. It's in you. It's in your ability to sit in silence and not break. It's in your discipline to work on yourself when no one is watching. It's in your focus to keep moving forward even when the world tries to pull you in 100 directions. It's in your mastery, the choice to stay calm when others lose control, the choice to stay steady when storms hit, the choice to keep building when no one claps. Remember this, the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest person is the one who doesn't need to announce their power. They don't chase approval. They don't argue for respect. They let their silence, their discipline, and their results do the talking. So if you want everything to fall into place, stop looking outward. Turn inward. Focus on yourself. Stay silent. Build in private. Master your inner world. Because the moment you do, the outer world will have no choice but to respond. That's how you win. Not with noise, not with force, but with quiet, unshakable strength. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, everything falls into place.